Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here today and for our team readiness for remote work. Um, that's me. I'm Jeremy Cherney, and today we're going to be talking about various technologies and things to think about when you're looking at your work from home or remote workforce or remote workers or whatever you want to call it. The idea is that we are uh, having thrust upon us the opportunity to work outside of the office and experience what's that is like, and it's had us really look at, um, sometimes we look at the tools, but what we're really looking at today is the processes. Uh, there are products out there that enable some of this, and we'll be talking about those, but really the tool is there to support whatever business process it is that you are using. And so as we go through this, what I'm really focused on today, I want you to be thinking about is what are the different business processes you have out there, and um, what do we need to do to have those work for you for your remote workplace? So I borrowed a little message from the world of architecture. When they design a building, they talk about form follows function. So as you have people working from home or working remotely, what are those functions? What are the purposes? What are the things that they need to be doing? What applications and systems do you need? What's going to empower and enable their productivity and their effectiveness? And then you really want to prioritize that's going to make the most difference now, considering time and budget. In some cases, when people, if you were moving from uh, the way you worked to working from home for all or most of your workforce, this might have been something you would have spent quite a bit of time on planning and budgeting for. And some of you have taken some of these actions in the past, but maybe not looking at it for the entire organization. And this all came around pretty quickly for a lot of people with the pandemic and the safe at home governmental orders that suddenly it was, okay, I need this now. And not only do we need it now, but I haven't budgeted for it. And as I look out into my future of my business, I don't even know what kind of money I'm going to have. So as we go through this, you want to start thinking which of these things are going to make the most difference given all of that. So for some of you, maybe you had, let's say an example, maybe you had an office, maybe you owned your own building or you rented space somewhere and you had, say, 25 people in that office, and that's where everybody went to work. And you had that one office to worry about. And typically all the security we had was designed around that one office. Well, now that one office still has its headquarters, and you might have 25 branch offices now. All these remote workers that are now having to do their job um, from home. And not everybody had a space set up at home for this. They might be working off their kitchen table. They might be working off their like a dining room table or some corner of their bedroom, or maybe sitting on their bed. There's all kinds of security concerns to start thinking about when this is happening. And so these are a few of the points we want you to be looking at as we go through this. First of all, any of you that are dealing with any kind of confidential data, either confidential for your business or confidential needs like you're in healthcare or take credit cards or things like that, you want to make sure people are getting the guidance on how to handle these materials. And when they were at your office, they just could leave them on their desk, or you had maybe certain protocols there. Now, do you want this confidential information sitting on their dining room table, sitting on the kitchen table, where it can be looked at by anyone else that happens to be home? Um, you want to look at what kind of computers you're using for access to your remote work. Maybe you issued a laptop to your team, and that's great. It's what we call a trusted computer. Maybe you're having them use their home computer just because that's all you had at the moment. And we would consider that what we call an untrusted computer. something that doesn't have antivirus, it isn't patched, isn't backed up. So you want to look at making sure that they're using trusted devices. You want to use good password managers like LastPass. That's going to allow you to have those passwords that people need to get in to the different systems. Before they might have been able to look at somewhere in the office where they had that written down somewhere securely, and now you need to have those passwords distributed across all your remote workers. So program like LastPass will help you store and generate secure passwords. Multi-factor authentication is always important and really, really important when we're looking at this from a home perspective. All the different cloud-based solutions you use, you want to make sure that beyond the ID and password, that they're turning on that multi-factor authentication. You want to have that available for your remote desktop, your VPN, which we'll talk about, so that someone has to have their phone or some other device with them that gets authenticated when they log in. I think we've all experienced that where you log in with your ID and your password, and then it says, okay, I'm going to send a 6-digit code to your phone, plug that in next, and that'll verify you are who you say you are. And again, nothing more important than this is with security as it's spread out across your company and across, whatever geographic area that now makes up your company. Maybe you had your office in Wauwatosa like Tobin Solutions does, and now we have a remote workforce all over Waukesha and Madison and Texas and all of that. So, once things spread out, security may look a little different for you. And it's also really important to be doing security awareness training for your team. It used to be maybe when people were next to each other and someone saw something, they just kind of do a shout out in the room saying, hey, I just got a phishing email attempt, don't open anything from so-and-so and that kind of thing. Well, that's a little harder now. The communication's a little bit different. So you want to make sure you're providing some level of security awareness training for your remote workers. There's a lot of scams going on right now around the pandemic and loans and people doing business and things like that. And you want to make sure that people are not falling for those scams, and that really comes with training. And our pro tip on this is we recommend that you perform a security assessment of your new branch offices. What are they using for their computer? How are they storing and using the information? What does their network look like? Are they using the same computer that their kid is using for games and online school, or that their significant other is using for their job? You want to do some kind of a security assessment so that you understand what's happening. Another thing that people spent a lot of time and money on when you had your offices inside your building was the workspace. Maybe people had a modern laptop or desktop. You set them up with dual screens. They had their keyboard and mouse. They knew how to scan and print. You had proper furniture for alignment so people could work on their workstation all day and do it in a ergonomic way to avoid neck strain and wrist pain and eye strain and things like that. And you probably had a rock solid network at work for them to use as well. And now at all your remote offices, again, they might be sitting on the chair they got from their grandma, at the dining room table that they got from their grandma, and sitting there on a little tiny laptop screen. That can be okay in the short term. In the long term, again, it can lead to a lot of chronic physical ailments and make it an uncomfortable situation. So you want to start looking at what is their workspace like? How are these things set up for them? Do they have reliable internet? Do they have reliable Wi-Fi? All of these things are going to be able to have them be able to work all day and as they normally would have at the office, and do it in a way that is comfortable and safe. When this all hit, one of the things that Tobin Solutions did, it was working with all of our clients to get them remote access to their office. Maybe a few people at their office had remote, maybe all of them had it, but weren't using it all at the same time. And suddenly everybody needed it, and everybody needed to work well and fast and all at the same time. And we spent a few weeks really working overtime for our customers to help them sort this out. There's different things that they need to think about. So one is maybe you're using what's called a VPN, a virtual private network. That is the kind of thing that's going to connect your remote computer or network as if it were plugged into your office. So it takes whatever device you've got and it acts just as if you had plugged it in at the office. That's one way some people are connecting, and in some ways that's what's needed. For some people, they're using a remote desktop solution or a remote control solution where they're simply um, remote controlling a computer from their home using another computer, and that works really well for people. We've seen that people have great success with that. That's been a real help. But what would you do about your telephones? You know, some of you have newer phone systems that allowed for some of these features, like call forwarding to people's cell phones. If you're not using auto attendance, you want to talk to whoever helps you maintain your phone system and program it. Turn those auto attendants on. If you're using voice over IP phones or soft phones that let you use your computer as a phone, at Tobin Solutions, the phone system we use, we were able to just take our phones home and plug them into our home network without any new programming or anything, and that allowed us to work. So you want to talk to whoever helps you maintain your phone system and see what's possible. Now, most of us have already been doing this now for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, so some of you may have some of these things worked out already, but as you go through this, you might see some new opportunities. Another opportunity is if you're able to work remotely and everyone's connecting from home to your office where you've got your, maybe you have an on-premise server, maybe you use some other cloud solutions, maybe it's an opportunity to look and say, hey, you know, maybe if we can do this remotely from the office, maybe we don't need servers at our office. Maybe we can move those to the cloud and create those systems and applications there. And so that for some of you, that may be a real opportunity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But all of these things are people need access to the systems you've got, whether they're your in-house systems, whether your email systems or other cloud-based solutions you use. You want to be able to do it in a way that's secure and productive for your team. Another consideration as we talk about process over product, how do you handle certain types of transactions that require paper or hands-on to certain things? So for some of you that are doing contracts where you need signatures, there are technologies out there like DocuSign and Adobe Sign that allow you to take your contracts, put them out digitally, and then send those to somebody so they can do an electronic signature. You may have already experienced this for yourself. It's relatively easy to set up for yourself, uh, for your customers, and in some cases it's way more convenient anyway. So you might be able to get something signed day or night without having to be in person and get that signature. Obviously, depending on what that contract is, you want to verify that a digital signature works, but there's a lot of areas where that already works and they keep expanding on what's possible via digital signatures. Another concern people have is payments. You know, right now you may be getting checks that come to your office and someone's got to go collect the mail and then deposit those checks. You know, you can keep doing that, but that, you know, is not always following the safe at home example. So there's other ways you can take payments. You can use Square, you can use Venmo or PayPal. There's payment portals that you can snap into a lot of different systems out there, including those contract solutions so that people can pay digitally. And the last thing is faxing. E-fax is a very popular one. Some of you still have to fax once in a while. May not be often, maybe it's every day, depending on what your business is. Turning that into a digital fax will allow you to be able to send and receive those faxes from your remote workforce. So again, we think process over product. What are the processes you need to do? And this is actually a pretty cool opportunity. And well, for some of you, you may feel really stuck with what's happening with all this work from home. And no doubt there's a big negative impact on a lot of this. You know, there can be an opportunity. And for some of this, the opportunity is to look at how we've done things in the past, um, this is the way we've always done it kind of a conversation, and look newly at those processes and procedures and the way you do things and see if there's an opportunity to maybe add some technology in that not only improves that process, but enables that work from home person to work more effectively, be more productive, and still wow your clients. This one's been a big one for everybody, right? For some of us, our very first video conference might have occurred aside from maybe a Tobin webinar and the other webinars you go on, but the actual video conferencing going back and forth with people, it's pretty new. And I mean, it's been around for a long time, but for people using it on a regular basis, it is new. And maybe you're doing that with your team. Maybe you're doing that with your customers. Maybe you're doing that with the other business groups you belong into and used to have an in-person meeting and now you're doing a video conferencing call over Zoom or GoToMeeting or Teams or Skype or any of the ones that are out there. There's no best solution for all of that. Zoom's very popular right now. They definitely nailed kind of the ease of use features. Um, but any of these will do for most of what you want. And you may have already been using these quite a bit. A few pro tips. First of all, since the only way you show up in that is by how they can see you and how they can hear you. So the idea is having a good camera and often a good headset. Depending on what kind of computer you're on, the may not have a great camera built in, or the microphone isn't very good, or you've got other background noise. Uh, this is where you want to have a good camera, a good headset, and the kind of headset, not just like the kind of $5 headset you buy at the checkout at the Walgreens or something like that, but a decent headset. You can get a good ones for anywhere from like $40 to $80, and they really make a big difference in the ability to have this meeting and have it be good quality, especially with uh, the headsets. It's one thing if the video gets a little choppy, but if you can't hear the person, it's almost impossible to conduct the meeting. Another great thing that people can do, and they don't maybe not aware of this, is a second camera. So a lot of these video conferencing solutions will allow you to add two cameras, a second camera, and you might ask yourself, why would I want to use that? You can use that second camera for another person that's joining the meeting. You can use that second camera to show documents, or maybe you have a product, a physical product that you want to show somebody, and something you could hold in your hand or move around with the camera. It's a neat option for that. You want to be looking at your lighting and background. There's obviously a certain professionalism to backgrounds and how we're doing things. But again, if you're trying to make it such that people can see you, just like they would see you in person, you want to have some good lighting. And so you want to practice that. That's kind of a theme as we go through this is practice. See what it looks like before you have to do it with the client, before you have to do it with your business partner. Obviously, look out for any background noise. The good headsets will take care of most of that. Um, I think everyone understands in the circumstances that you may have kids and pets and other family members roaming around. But sometimes there might just be an opportunity to kind of close the door and put a little sign on the door saying, "Hey, I'm in a meeting here," and doing what you can to minimize the noise because a lot of times that can be very distracting on a conference call. Another option with a lot of these is you can actually join multiple times from the same link. So what we've seen is maybe someone has their camera working well, but for some reason the voice part isn't working out. Or maybe they're connecting via their smartphone, but they're in a location where they don't have great internet service. So you can use the dial-in number, and a lot of times that works way better than the other method, and so I would consider trying that. Where you're placing your camera is critical. You see people um, and the camera's looking up their nose or looking in their ear or the top of their head. Maybe they're really far away or they're right up front. Again, this is the kind of thing, think of yourself as a little mini Hollywood mogul and um, uh, you know, pretend, produce this, direct it, try it out first and see how all this looks. I put the word pants on there. There's always the joke that, people in these videos, they're, they have a nice shirt and they're dressed up on top and below they're just sitting there in their underwear. They may be, and that's okay. I think the point is with these is, before all of this, if you were going to go meet with a customer or a prospect, you'd probably be dressed professionally and have your hair done and things like that. And I'm seeing on these things where people are showing up to some of these meetings, and it's like they kind of rolled out of bed on some of these, and maybe they really did. And again, people get that, but it's the opportunity to again be professional. You want to keep that going. And some of you are doing this on your computer, which is fine. Um, the If you have an iPad or sometimes your smartphone, because those have the cameras, because those have the microphones, they're kind of designed with the ability for voice video conferencing built in. You may find that those actually work better than your desktop or laptop computer. So, give that a try as well. And as I said, you really want to practice scheduling and running these meetings. If you've been on one of these meetings already, you know what it's like when there's somebody who's new running it. And again, people are generally understanding about that this is new, but it's, it can still be a little frustrating. It can take the first 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting to get everything squared away. So practice ahead of time. You can practice with someone else in your office or with a friend or family member, and just make sure you know how to use the technology so that it provides a real smooth experience when you're on there. Let's see, I see a question here in the chat, and that's a reminder that you can use the chat for questions. Which video conference does some of the best for instruction? So I want to show someone how to do an online or document task. Maybe swapping from document to document. Zoom forces you to share separate documents, and that's not ideal. I'm not sure I know exactly what that question means. Maybe it's that option where you have that second camera or that second screen that allows you to do both, but I'm not really clear on that question, so sorry. There are document systems out there too that you can attach as a camera that are designed specifically, kind of like the option of back in the day there were those overhead projectors, with the glass and the light and the magnifier, and you'd put a document on the screen and it would show up on a big projector screen. They have technology like that you can use for uh, the video conferencing as well. Um, oh, desktop sharing, that's what you're talking about? Yeah. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think most of these allow you just to be able to store and share one document or one screen at a time, either your whole screen or separate windows. I'm not sure if that's answering your question. And I want to swap. Basically, I want to seamlessly swap between docs as if the attendee is looking at my computer. Yeah, I don't, maybe we could talk about that one offline. I want to get a little more information about how you would do that. So we can give a call afterwards, and my phone number will be at the back. Sorry, I can't answer that right now. I think I got to hear a little bit more. But yeah, but this is great though that you're asking that question, right? It's something you're already experiencing and seeing. It's like, how do we make this work as if it worked when I was in front of somebody at my office, at their office, at a Starbucks? You want to be able to check that out. So it's a good conversation. Thank you. Presentations. So, um, a lot of us have some really nice brochures and materials that we put together on paper that we often will sit down and these folders of information, and maybe this kind of goes to the question that was just being asked a little bit, binders of information, those fancy folders people put on there with their logo and all that, heavy, beautiful cardstock and all that. Well, we don't have that now. I mean, you can still email it to, you can still physically mail it to somebody, but a lot of times the value is sitting with them and going over that together. So when you've got that material now, how are you going to do that? And one of the easiest ways is by using some presentation software like PowerPoint or Slides or Prezi or Keynote if you're an Apple fan. Um, you might have to create some of those presentations, create some of those paper documents in a presentation ahead of time so that you've got something to share. But a few tips on that. One is, sometimes when you're doing a regular presentation for a large group in person, you might have video or audio in there. Those don't work as well coming through the presentation, depending on what people have, so you want to avoid that. You might want to have some PDFs made of your presentation so you can send them so they can share along and see what's there. Um, and again, practice, practice, practice. You may have many years or much training on how to use the materials you've already got, and now you might have some new materials here. And so the opportunity is to practice ahead of time, get really clear about how these are going to go, how your conversation is going to flow, so that you're ready to give those presentations. Something else that's coming up in all of this, maybe you had it in your office, maybe not, maybe um, people could just walk around and hand a document off or look over the cubicle wall and talk to somebody about a document or something that's happening. And while you can do some of that with your video conferencing, uh, a lot of people are finding a lot of value in collaboration technologies. So programs like Microsoft Teams and SharePoint or Google Hangouts and Drive or Dropbox or task-based project management systems like Planner and Trello. Um, those are those things that are going to allow you to have all that information available for your whole team to see, even though you're not all in the same place. So for instance, at Tobin Solutions, we use a lot of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. So we put documents out there. People can chat back and forth about the document, collaborate on a document, be in the same document at the same time. We have task lists set up. Um, it's uh, it allows us to work pretty seamlessly, even though we're not all in the same space. And it's taken a little something. Again, it used to be, hey, I'm going to go bring a document and go sit over with you by your desk for a few minutes and point some stuff out and bring out a Sharpie or a pen and you're pointing and highlighting and working with something, or you do a quick breakout in a conference room and sit down and go through it. Well, that may not be available to you anymore to do it that way. So these collaboration technologies will facilitate some of that. And the pro tip is really, you want to try this out. You want to do a little proof of concept project, maybe pick one small team, maybe pick one small project, try it out and see how you're going to do this. Because again, if it's going to be something you're going to be expecting your team to use, the more you can sort it out ahead of time and provide training and guidance, the less frustrating it's going to be for people. And you want to make sure you're using the right technology for the right application. And this is a great way to do that. And we can help with those proof of concept projects, or maybe you've got some ideas and you want to walk through what those would look like with the technology you own, or you're considering some other technology. It's a great opportunity for a conversation to see if there's a way we can assist with that, and how we can make that happen for you. But a lot of these technologies, most of you have in one way or another. So a lot of times you've got the tools already. It's leveraging the tools for the success you want. Uh, Again, depending on how you've already operated for managing your customers and client engagements, or whatever you call it in your world, um, you know, we've been to lots of clients, and some of their customer management information is sitting on a big whiteboard in a conference room, and they've got their top 20 projects going on, their top 20 customers and what's happening with them, or they've got reports they're printing out and sending around to people, or they have paper files on the clients. Um, a CRM or a customer management system, there's some very inexpensive or even some free ones that are out there. A lot of these have like a free tier of service or inexpensive tier of service. That's going to allow you to enter your customers and be able to take notes, create a tickler of when who talked to them last and when you have to call them next, what projects you're working on with them, what's next for them. Again, you might have had these conversations in the hall, You might have had these conversations in the kitchen or by the water cooler. Now people are in different parts of the city, people in different parts of the state. And so the opportunity is, what does that process look like for you? How are you keeping on top of your clients now? And what can you do with technology to make a difference there? And I would say this is a really important slide. It is more important than ever now to keep wowing your customers and keeping in communication with them. And a tool like this can really make a big difference. Um, we've maybe feeling a little inundated with all the emails and love that we get in our email box every day from all the different customers and partners and products that I maybe used like 5 years ago, and suddenly I'm getting an email from them about how much they care and want to help me through this uncertain times. And I get it, that's fine. It's those ones we really care about, right? The ones our customers, our close partners. What are you doing to stay in communication with them now? What are you doing to let them know how you're operating during this? Letting them know uh, that you care, that you want to know what's happening with them, asking them how you could help them, um, letting them know, hey, we're all in this together, especially for you business owners out there, and you're talking to other business owners. I mean, there's something that we're all really dealing with inside of this, and really communication is critical. Even communication with your team, communication around what your business is doing, where you're at with business. We've done a lot of that inside of Tobin Solutions, telling them where we are with our various loans we're trying to get and what's happening with our clients and what everyone's dealing with. And it's really made the team stronger inside of this. Uh, and in some of the conversations we're having with our customer, I feel like our partnerships are developing even at a deeper level because we're talking to them not just about trying to sell them something, because no one wants to be sold something, but like just how it's all going together. Like we're all in this together. And a CRM, a customer management tool, is just a great way to do that, to keep the conversation going. If you've got a message to get out there to people, this is a great tool for being able to do that. And if you've made that message clear, you've had some conversations with clients, and you want the rest of your team to know about those, the CRM tool is a great place because you can put your notes in and they can go in and find those. So if you haven't operated with one of these yet, now's a great opportunity to look at it. A few pro tips on that. One is you want to just start with the out-of-the-box experience. Um, Maybe over the years you've tried to do a new CRM project. Um, we hear this a lot. People call us up and we talk about a product and say, oh, we tried that, that didn't work. We tried this other product, that didn't work. Um, I've got some news for you. It's rarely is it the product. It's often that either they uh, didn't do the proper training, they didn't do the proper setup, they tried to make it perfect before it rolled out and didn't do a lot of training around that. So and then people want to stop using it. So you know, grab something that you can start using out of the box. Any one of these tools I've got up here, and there's dozens more of these, maybe even some really specific to your industry, out of the box, they're going to do a lot for you. And we advise to really kind of start small with it. As long as you don't lock yourself in and you can grow with it, that's a really great opportunity. And then just pick some incremental goals. Maybe it's just to get your customer list loaded and start getting the equivalent of a Rolodex going, just where you can have some notes on those customers. For some of you, that could be a huge win and a really great way of supporting your customers while you've got your remote workforce. Um, and as long as you get a system that is expandable, then you can keep adding on it. And like I said, a real quick win with a lot of this for some of you is just being able to keep on top of those customer to-dos and the conversations. Instead of trying to sort through emails, someone can go right into the CRM solution, look up the customer name and see all the conversations that have had, all the commitments that are made, any notes you've got, any next items, all in one place. And that's almost always an out-of-the-box solution for any of these. So, like I said, I think this is more important now than ever, and if you haven't done something around this, we really invite you to look at how this could work for you. So, the last piece I want to talk about is, for some of you, maybe you've thought about this for a long time, about what it would be like to work from home. Maybe you've had people that have asked for it, or maybe you wanted to hire somebody who lived out of state and thought, well, how can I make this work? That's not going to work that they're out of state. Um, we can all consider this a grand experiment that's been thrust upon us, right? Not, a lot of us didn't choose this. A lot of us would never choose this, but it's here and we're working remotely. So let's make an opportunity out of this. Let's see what this would actually look like. What are the systems and processes and protocols you are working out now or need to continue to work out so that your team is operating effectively and that they're productive? Now is the opportunity to do all of that. This isn't just oh, we had a big snowstorm for a couple of days and everyone's working from home. I mean, this has been going on now for some of us for 5, 6 weeks, and maybe it's another several weeks of this, depending on what happens. So that's a long time to really learn things and test things out and try things. And so it's a great opportunity. And for some of you, you might find, hey, we don't need to rent that office space anymore, or we don't need as much office space. We can have an opportunity to work from home. There might be some cost savings associated with this. You might be wondering what to do about that server you've got sitting at your office, and then some of your on-premises equipment. Is moving to the cloud for some of that the option? So, and I'm looking at this too as the owner of Tobin Solutions. I'm starting to look and say, hey, is there a possibility that for some or all of Tobin, we might have a permanent remote workforce? Nothing's been decided yet, and it may not be for everybody. It might be a split thing where we've got some employees at the office who are the ones that maybe need to be there, or the ones that are just craving social interaction. But we've got some people that are just super happy and productive working from their home office right now. And so, yeah, I'm looking at this. Is remote workforce a possibility? I'm really living into that question right now. And so we're starting to go through this for ourselves. You might be wondering for yourself, how do you do it? And so we've got a couple of tools for you. One is we have a free work from home survey that we can send you, and then you can send it out to your team. It's branded with your logo on it, and the results are just for you, and we give you a report, and you get the raw data on it if you're an Excel guru and want to play around with that. But then we can also sit down with you if you'd like. It's an option if you'd like to sit down with one of our experts and see, hey, what would this actually look like? What actions would need to be taken? What kind of budget would it look like? What would you have to do so that maybe after all of this, remote work becomes a permanent way that you do business? And if you're in one of those camps, feel free to reach out to us. So this has been one of our shorter webinars. Again, it's more about just kind of walking through different business processes that are out there. Maybe you've seen some here that I haven't identified and you've got some questions on. So feel free, there's my number and my email address and our website. Feel free to give us a call and ask any questions there. We'll open it up to questions here in a minute. If you want to join our mailing list, that's great. And follow us on social media. We always appreciate that. And it's a way we get a lot of information out. And some of you have been on our webinars several times. We talk on a variety of topics, including we do a really great, well-received security webinar. So if you've got any other business groups, or if you're on a nonprofit board or your church board or anything like that, any groups where you think this conversation or any other IT or security conversation might be valuable, let us know, because we'd love the opportunity to have that with you. So I'm going to take it off mute here, and feel free to jump in with any questions. Otherwise, we have recorded this. This will become available if you want to review it or share it with somebody else. So thanks for today. Thanks for your attention, and thanks for your time today. I hope you're all doing really well during this time, both health and wellness, as well as your business. And